Hello patrons and welcome to our January video. Today I thought I could share with you my favorite art supplies because I love talking about art supplies or I love art supplies, and yeah, I want to share you what I enjoy using the most. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, let's start with the most boring one in a way, which is my iPad and my Apple Pencil. This is how I draw digital art, and it's something I probably use the most nowadays when I draw, which has its like pluses and minuses. It's super convenient. It's always my starting point nowadays, even if it's just a sketch for a piece that I am planning to do with a traditional medium. I will still sketch it on the iPad because it's just so much easier and it works as a light table, and I can just trace the sketch right onto watercolor paper, for example. So this is like perfect. What can I say? I don't have any custom brushes in my Procreate, which is the app that I use to draw with the iPad. But I would like to try some. I've heard of some good ones, and I think I'd like some more like textured traditional media brushes. So I think that will be something I will look into next. But yeah, this is probably my most used art equipment. Oh my god, what do you call it? Art material. This is what I use the most in my art, basically. The next thing we could talk about is watercolors, which is probably the next, like my next most used thing. This is my watercolor palette, and I'm gonna have like close-up shots of these things, but inside it looks like this, and yeah, inside there are pan watercolors, and my pan watercolors that I've used are these ones, which some of you might not be able to read. I cannot read them, but these are White Nights, St. Petersburg White Nights watercolors, and I bought this set of, I wonder how many there were in here. Maybe 20, around 20 or 24 or something. And I couldn't fit all of them in my palette, and actually I've been now thinking for a while to switch some of these up, because in my palette I have a lot of browns, which used to be something I loved using, but some of them I definitely use a lot less than others, so I think I'd like to switch some of them out for some of these more brighter colors that are in here. But yeah, I really like these watercolors. I think they work beautifully, and they're a fairly they're a very affordable price point, I think, like compared to any of those big brand professional watercolors. Of course, I've not ever used those, so I can't compare, but I've been really happy with these for like 2 years now, I think. Here are some of the brushes I use the most. I don't even know what these, I mean, these are synthetic brushes. The biggest one says it's an 8. This is a 5, and the small one is a 1. They've kind of lost their point a bit, unfortunately. But yeah, I like to use these pointed ones. I use synthetic because I'm vegan. I don't want animals to die, so I can paint, okay? And yeah, I've been very happy. I just buy whatever brand of synthetic brushes is the cheapest, pretty much. So I don't have like a lot of preference, but maybe like size-wise this might be useful. See, I don't really go for like really big brushes because most of the time I don't paint really big areas, but that all depends on what you like to paint, I suppose. Okay, and what I like to paint on the most is, it's a bit reflective because of the plastic on it, but my favorite paper is the Arches cold press paper. It's a fairly textured paper, which was something I used to like struggle with in the beginning. I kind of didn't like it, but now if I try hot press paper, which is like all smooth, I kind of can't deal with that anymore. So I prefer a texture, but like a fine texture. So this is the nicest one I've tried. It's also, I mean, the only like fancy watercolor paper I've tried, and it's pretty expensive. I think the price comes like to something like €2 a sheet. So it's not nice, but yeah, if you want to like try something fancy, you could try this. I like it, but again, I guess it depends on what kind of paper you prefer. Yeah. Another medium that I really love is markers. And here I have a huge pouch filled with Copic markers and refills for Copic markers. I also have a few off-brand markers, but most of my markers are Copic markers, which are an investment, but for me they've worked out, and I really love working with them. These are alcohol-based markers, which basically the big difference is that when you color with these, they produce like a smooth, even surface of color, whereas with non-alcohol based markers you get like streaks. So you can create kind of very smooth surfaces of color, if that makes sense. And that's why I really like working with markers. Some of my favorite marker papers are this sketchbook. This is a Midori sketchbook. I wanted to try this because Friend Nerd suggested it, and when I went to Japan I had to get one, and it's really nice. I love the kind of texture that the markers have on this paper. Let's see if there's something I can find to show you. They get this slightly grainy texture, which is something I really like. The downside of this paper though is that it bleeds, so I have like this sheet of paper in between, like behind the page that I'm coloring. Yeah, you can see it would bleed onto the next page if I didn't have this, and it also kind of bleeds like the edges, like where you're coloring in, kind of spreads a bit, so it's not like perfect control, but I just really love the texture of the markers. Okay, I think this is where you can actually see it better, like on the hair. This slightly like grainy. There are like white dots almost in there. I don't know what it is, but about this, but I really love it. So I really enjoyed using this sketchbook that I've now had for like 2 years. I think I haven't drawn much in this in the past year or so, but every now and then. Because I have to admit, like, after I got the iPad, my traditional usage of traditional mediums has like drastically gone down, which I find is a shame, but it's just convenience. And I mean, I do really like digital art. It's also really fun, so it's not all like bad, but I just still feel kind of apologetic about it a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, okay. I have another marker paper for you that I've enjoyed using. Is the Render by Crescent. And the cool thing about this marker paper compared to other types is that it does not show through. There's this special coating inside the paper which like stops it from going on the other side, and this is the first paper of its kind that I've like discovered or found. I know there are other ones, but this is the only one I've used, and I really like this, but I think this one has the same issue in that like where you color it, it kind of spreads a bit bigger. So it's not the most accurate paper in that regard, but it's very convenient for the non-bleeding through thing. This one also gives the markers a beautiful texture, which is super nice. Okay, what else? Another thing I really like are colored pencils, which I have here. I bought this huge set of the Faber-Castell Polychromos colored pencils, and they are beautiful. I've never had like fancy colored pencils before. I got these and these are just really gorgeous. They're so pigmented and nice, but I have to say I don't really use them as much as I could. Sometimes I use them together with watercolor or markers, which I think is really nice. Is like a more softer look, like for lining, for example, than using ink. But I don't really use them just by themselves. I did when I first got them. I tried it, but it wasn't quite for me, or I haven't yet figured it out. So. But I've been really happy with these colored pencils. What else? Okay. This is a random one, but it looks like a pen, but it is actually an eraser. It has like you can actually like sharpen it like you would a pencil, and it's like very nifty in like getting very detailed with your erasing. I like it very much. It also comes with this handy brush with which you can brush off the eraser shavings. Next up is ink. These are what I use mostly with watercolors, but also with markers. My favorite one ever is the Sakura Pigma brush pen in dark brown, or I mean in brown, but it is a dark brown. I really like this. I love that it's waterproof, so that's very convenient. I can put it like under watercolor or over. It won't spread either way. And I just really like how it's brown instead of black. It gives like a softer look to the lines. But the bad thing about this is that the tip is, although it's like a brush pen, it's actually felt tip. It's just like shaped like a brush and it's bendy, but that means it kind of gets ruined? Yeah, it gets ruined faster than it runs out of ink, basically. So I can't get as accurate a line anymore, but there would still be ink left, and you can't refill these, so it feels kind of wasteful. So that's a huge minus about them. But what makes this next thing nice is that it is refillable. This is a Pentel brush pen, and it has an actual brush, which means it will last a really long time. It's synthetic, so it should keep well for a long time, and it is refillable. You can open up the... okay, I don't think I can open it up right now. There are these small ink capsules you can buy and put them inside and continue using the same pen, which is really nifty, I think. My only downside is that I would prefer if it was brown, but there is no brown, unfortunately. So I think that's it. That's my favorite art supplies. I would love to hear if you have some suggestions, especially for like paper with markers, because I'm actually now gonna, like, my next sketchbook, I bought a Lehturm, which is another thing, or another sketchbook that Friendart has recommended. So she's like the highest power in like art supply recommendations, so that's what I'm gonna test next. But I want to finish my old sketchbooks before I do that, so hopefully I will. So hopefully I'll get to that sometime soon. I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, as I said, I'd love to hear what your favorite art supplies are, and let's discuss, share them down below, and yeah. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for your support. It means so much to me. See you in the next one. Bye!